So welcome back to Cottage Treasures Quilting. We got a lot of wonderful feedback from our Dream Big Opal kit, and this time we're going to show you our Dream Big, sometimes they call it vanilla and we call it
Ivory.
Ivory. There's a little more complex in this one, and a little more quilting went into this one. Had a blast doing this one as well, and we thought we'd share another video with you on some free motion quilting on our home machine. And all the patterns for this one are also available in the kit we have for sale on our site, cottagetreasures.store. So come for a ride with us and watch us quilt this wonderful quilt. Alright, we flipped it over. We're going to put our wonderful batik. This is the highest quality batik we can get from Indonesia. And any of our kits, if you're wanting to buy one of our kits, they always come with batiks. So a couple things to add before I finish up the back side is that make sure all your windows are open and you have a fan for ventilation, or even do it outside. And we also put a sheet down just to make sure any of the adhesive doesn't get stuck on your floor. It will wash away, but better to just avoid it in the first place. So I've used my fabric marker pen that you can spray away with water, no problem, to draw a design. Now you can draw whatever you want in the middle. I'm doing a double border on every petal on this quilt. So I've started with just a little flower in the middle, and I'm going to do a little rocky pattern inside the second border. I'm going to fill the center in with pebbles and then have little sprouts coming out onto each leaf. And then once I complete this center one, I'm going to wash it away with some water, and I'm going to start building my border around every petal. So as soon as you get closer to the border, the petals become harder to see. So go ahead and take your marker, if you have one. It makes it a lot easier to trace these petals out before you try and go ahead and quilt them, because as you can see, these start to get near impossible to see what you're going to be sewing down. So I've traced this one out, and I'm going to crunch this one out real quick for you. Just follow my line. When your hands are where you want them, just take a second and reposition them. Finished drawing our double border around all our petals on our quilt, and now we're going to go through the 6 patterns that we've developed for the ivory quilt. So recommend right off the bat some scrap paper and a pencil, and you're going to do each of these patterns at least 5 times before you do them in some practice sandwiches. So I'll show you right here 1 through 6 of our patterns. This one, you're going to start wherever your border is, or wherever you feel comfortable on your petal. And you're going to start with some big wavy lines until you hit the edge of your border, and then double back for another one, and then another one, and you're filling the space that you need for your petal. So once you've done and you've made it down to the bottom, you're going to start doing some wavy lines across the inside of the previous lines you've just made. Now sometimes you're going to have to travel back on a line you've already done, but even if you waver out of the line, nobody's going to notice. So you make your way up. I like to make them like a giant rainbow that curves back around and comes back into the line, not butt up against the line, but comes back into the line that you previously stitched. So you're going to make your way up and then jump back over to the other side of where you've done your 2 wavy lines, and you'll do it right through till you finish, as it looks really cool. So that's pattern number 1. We'll move on to pattern number 2. Pattern number 2 is kind of a horseshoe. It's got 3 borders and a little bit of lines in the middle. So this one, you start wherever you're going to start on your petal, and you do a little horseshoe. Do a small border around that original horseshoe, just echoing it, and then you're going to do a slightly bigger echo. Then when you get down, you're going to start, up here, you're going to start and you're going to travel over the same lines you've already done for this border, but you're going to draw a line in between And however the gap, whatever size of gap you want, just feel comfortable and go ahead. And you're gonna do this all the way down till you make it back down to the bottom. Now you're gonna add the third border. This is the final border, and it's another just a little border around to accent it. Now once you've finished, so let's say we've finished right here, you can start drawing a new one. And then small border, big border, then fill in the border all the way down to here, follow back with a smaller border that ends up in between two patterns, which is a perfect spot to start the next one. So that's pattern number 2. So then if you look at the quilt that we've finished, you can see it up here. I started right here, and then every time I finished, I had a bit of a triangle mark. That's where I restarted. And you just do it till you finish the whole petal. Now, if you find yourself caught in one spot and you don't know what to do, I'll usually just add another border inside somewhere just to fill in those empty gaps. Pattern number 3 is kind of pebbles with seaweed we were going for. So these ones are just really serpentine lines. So you just go ahead and start a nice wavy line and then come back down to where you started and then continue again. Now when you're doing these, it's nice sometimes once you've finished one serpentine line to come and intersect into one and then double back instead of going from one side to the other all the time, which is noticeable. Sometimes you just butt right into an old line, come back, start the next line. So once you've done on the quilt, we did it for about an inch and a half of serpentine lines. Then we'd come down and we'd start our figure 8s. Now when you're doing a figure 8, you're always gonna do a full circle, and then you're gonna have to double back half of the circle you've already done to be able to make it to the opposite side to start your next figure 8 or pebble. So once you've done your pebbles, then you do another about, I'd say, an inch and a half of some more serpentine, seaweedy looking type serpentine lines, and then the finished result will kind of look like that. Or if you look at the quilt, here's one right here. So you can see we've done about an inch and a half of serpentine lines followed by a whole line of pebbles. Pattern number 4 is quite similar to pattern number 1, but once we finished our first wavy line, instead of going over and starting a second one, we're gonna build a border off of it. So we're just gonna go out about half an inch and echo the previous line. When we get to the bottom, then we're gonna start a new one. Then you're gonna go about a half inch over and echo that previous line, just kind of building a border inside of your petal. We'll go back up, do about another half inch border, come down. So when you've come down to the bottom, you can see here, this is not where I finished over here. So all you can do is when you finish over here, you just follow a previous stitched line, or wherever your petal borders were made, just follow back on a previous stitched line to a spot you feel comfortable to start, and then start some wavy lines. And wavy lines travel up a previous stitched line, wavy line, previous stitched line, wavy line. And you're gonna do that until you've made it all the way to the other side. Then you're gonna go across previously stitched lines. Traveling is, you really need to travel when you're doing free motion quilting. That way you don't have to stop there, cut your stitch, replant a stitch over here and start over again. It's nicer and fluid just to keep it going in one fluid motion. And then you continue all your wavy lines down to the bottom. I do have an example down here on a practice sandwich. And as you can see, you got our half inch borders and some wavy lines in between. Pattern number 5 is not as dominant in our quilt. I think I only used it 3 times as a bit of a filler because some of our other patterns are getting a little too close together and I like to keep them spread out. But this is your basic little flower. So what you start is with a half crest moon and then some bumps, some petals off of that moon. So once you've done however many petals will fit over your crest moon, you're gonna echo just a small 1/8 to a 1/4 inch line all the way back around them and start your next set of petals. Once you've done your next set of petals, you're again going to echo over it, or you add little accents, a little twirl, come back down, continue that small echo, and then you can throw a little leaf in there. Continue your little echo around your previous petals, and then another little accent here. another leaf I threw in there, and then I continued an echo. Now here I decided I was going to throw a new flower in, so you can just see I just did another half crest moon and went ahead and started doing petals followed by echoing, more petals, echoing, and I threw little accents along the way. Good. And as an example, I have just a small one right in here. It was just to fill in this petal because I didn't quite know what to do. And even this little guy, it's just a little half crest moon with 4 petals, 1 echo and a leaf, and it fills the space nicely. Pattern number 6 is the last pattern, which is probably one of my favorite ones on the quilt. It's quite easy too. All you're doing is building a line with circles on it. So you do your whole circle. Now remember, when you finish a circle, you got to half travel that circle again to become on the opposite side. Up, full circle, up, full circle, come around to the border, wherever the border is on your petal, come down, do a full circle, and then you'll keep doing this until you've finished your pattern, filling in your whole petal. And then once you're done that, you're going to come back and echo over top of it. All you're going to do is come in and do about a 1/4 inch echo around your previous lines and circles. Now remember, if you feel like you've gotten stuck somewhere, just go ahead and travel back through a line you've already done. And the end result looks like this, and as well it looks like this. Once you've done drawing these out about 5 times and you feel very confident with it, you're going to want to make a sandwich. As many sandwiches as you have. It can be whatever leftover fabric you have lying around, and try and make a contrasting thread, like a red on a white is perfect. All it is double-sided fabric with a piece of batting in the middle, and this is where you would start. Now how we started was we would start by just drawing up a leaf that we have that kind of matches the shape of one of the petals on our quilt, and then sew this line down so you have a nice starting point. And you can do the borders if you want, or just go ahead and practice your patterns. I recommend with the sandwiches you draw your patterns first. So if I was doing pattern 6 that we just did a second ago, I would just go ahead and draw circles and try not to lift your pen at all. If you have one of these erasable pens, I highly recommend them because you just spray it and it goes away. So you just draw it out. And then as you finish the whole pattern, you're going to make your way back or start where you had finished and do your echoes. Now the echoes you don't really have to draw in, I feel, because you're just going to be falling back on what you've already stitched. And then once you've finished one of your patterns, you're just going to go ahead, give it a spray down to get rid of the blue pen, and voila, you'll have your finished sandwich. And I recommend you fit about, depending on the size of your sandwich, fit as many as you can on each one, and practice these about 5 times as well, because practice makes perfect. It's an old saying, but it is one of the truest sayings there are. And then once you're done these patterns, I recommend giving it a try on your quilt. The worst that can happen is you don't like the end result, but nobody's going to notice because you're always your pickiest critic. And we're going to have lots of fun. And next pattern I show you is going to be on the quilt. So we're going to do an example of this one. This one's just pretty big pebbles, and then we're just echoing around them. So the way I like to start this one off, because you can get lost pretty quick, is I like to draw the first couple rows, and then as I'm going after the fact, I'll come in and make my own and make them fit the pattern to finish off the whole petal. So we'll start off on the side, and you want to fill in the spaces between them as you go. I'm going to go ahead and start off with this little half circle here. So I got a lot of extra space in between, so I'm just going to go ahead and echo this once, and then I'm going to travel up a line I've already done before and start my next pattern.
straight line, followed by a circle. Straight line, followed by a circle. Straight line. And then we'll echo the inside of that. And then we can echo the other side of it. And then we'll make our way over to the next straight line. So I'm going to do a demonstration of this little seaweed pebble. I've got one here, I've got a little one here as well, and I've got another one over here. This one's very time consuming, as you can see, with all the serpentine lines, but I'm going to go ahead and show you one of these. So you're going to start with serpentine lines right off the bat. And just very misshapen all over the place. And all it is really a lot of echoing and joining together your serpentine lines so it doesn't look so manufactured all together. And then once you feel like you've gotten a good little start there, we're going to add some pebbles. And then once you have a row of pebbles, you're gonna serpentine a little line beside it. And now it looks like a pretty good gap to start another row of pebbles, and you're just gonna continue that all the way across the pattern. Now this one's very dense, so if you wanted to have a little more pop, just make the pebbles a little bit bigger, and they'll jump out a lot better. So I'm going to replicate this petal again over here, and how I started off was doing the serpentine-ish lines first, and then coming down, doing another one, and you want them to kind of wave in together. Come back down, and then I just followed an old traveled line to get over to here to do the last one. And then wherever you start or finish is where you're going to start doing your wavy serpentine-like lines. So if we were to finish here, I just start, travel up an old line, swiggle around. These are very inconsistent lines is what I'm going for, as wavy and weird as possible. And then when you finish one, you just travel along the same line until you get to another fresh spot to start. Until you've completed the whole pattern. So we'll go ahead and start this one over here. And like I said, as wavy and weird as possible comes with the best end effect. So now we'll start with the wavy lines. Just as awkward and weird. It feels really weird when you're quilting it like you're doing it wrong, but when you're finished it looks fantastic. And there you have it. Now it's going to feel really weird quilting this, and with no direction at all, but as you can see, the finished product's pretty nice. So I got another petal here that's a little odd shape, so I'm going to fit in this flower here. It's very easy to fill in space with the little twirls at the end. So I like to start in the middle, and then when I feel like I've finished the flower with a couple leaves and twirls, I just build another flower right off of the existing flower. So we'll do this one here. So I've done this pattern right here twice now. I'm going to do the third time for you. And I start down at the bottom and always do the big bump first and draw a border. Then I draw the bigger border around it and start putting lines through the middle of it. And then once I've made my way all the way back over, I'll finish off a third border and then start the next bump. And you just keep adding borders and cutting one of them in half with these little dots. Come back, and then you'll have to travel along a line you've already done before to start the next one, and so on and so forth. As you get further in, some spots get a little, you kind of dig yourself into a corner, so I just kind of add a little border around it. Looks pretty good. So that's the first one. Then you'll do two in the corner, one over here in the corner, one over here in the corner, and where they meet is a perfect spot to start another one. So we're doing the final step, which is filling in kind of the empty spaces between the petals. So I've decided to just run some pebbles up the side, kind of matching the one design inside of our petals, but I'm just spacing them about 2.5 inches apart from each other. So over here, I've actually used the erasable pen and drawn my lines as kind of guideline, and I just do my circle and keep the line in the middle of each pebble. So, start right here. So this bad boy is done. As you can see, all the quilting's been done, so now we got to go ahead and trim it and square it. Now these panels never come square, so you really got to take the time. You're going to lose a little bit of your pattern in some of the pebbles, but it's better to have it square when you go to bind it. So we're going to square it, then we're going to bind it, and then we'll show you the finished product.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Good. She's done. She looks fantastic. We binded it. Now we didn't record the binding this time. We recorded the binding on the Dream Big Opal, but this time I hate binding. So Delilah went out and bought me an automatic binding foot for the Janome, which was fantastic. So it's done. This is the finished product. Just like Dream Big Opal, the ivory turned out just gorgeous. I'm really excited that I get to share this video with you guys. This is our second video on YouTube, and we've got another one coming up. I can give you a little sneak peek of it. It's a collage rooster, that's all you're getting. So that one will be uploaded quite soon. And so you can, if you don't mind, leaving us some comments. We got so many good comments on Dream Big Opal last time. I'd like to see what you guys think of this one. Come visit us on our website, cottagetreasures.store, and visit our Facebook page. Thanks so much, and stay tuned for the next video.